I mean, Nev and I became friends in part getting together to watch really bad fan videos, and we laughed. I mean, we used to call it, it was crap Doctor Who evening. So we get together.
That was the time. Yeah.
And we watch 80s and 90s fan videos, some of which are just horrendous. But Piper's actually, there's no editing. There's no sense at all of anyone understanding that, that seems to never be cut. Was it someone very annoying, the overly eccentric playing the Doctor as well?
Someone overweight who thought the job of the Doctor was to be as unpleasant as possible.
Yes.
And just to be rude, and without any charm at all. Yeah, Colin is a very charming man.
He is a very charming
man. But they go, oh yeah, $6. I can do this. I can be that. Yeah. I've got the coat, I've got this, I can be rude. Yeah.
But what's extraordinary is just how, I think over the last few years, I think people, it's not just about people now do really good special effects, it's the fact people pick up upon pace and urgency and actually, and how to make comedy work, which is knowing when to cut.
Yes, so much easier.
There's some really funny things in there.
Good. We'd be embarrassed watching that now. Because it'd be too good. We'd just be going, well.
It's kind of reasons why we stopped doing it.
Yeah,
actually, because we've been getting a lot of fan videos which we just felt embarrassed
by. We just watched Brendan Shepard stuff and Ian Levine's, and after that, there was just nowhere else to go.
Have you seen those things where they've gone on the DVDs and they've re-edited 80s stories to try and make them better? they're just much worse.
The Planet of Fire special edition, which starts with many pants. We must hide the child Turlo, just giving everything away. This spacecraft crash.
There are people in the room who've decided that you're re-editing old Doctor Who into 45-minute new style episodes.
Some of them can stand
and some of them actually,
you
don't really notice it.
But actually, Stephen Moffat was thinking about that.
Yeah,
he was speaking to us about whether he should do Ark in Space.
Yeah. 45 minutes with new music and.
I think it's a bit of a fool's error. I think it's also. I think it's an interesting thing to try and do as a means of seeing whether it works or not. And I think it's quite exciting. I think actually it's quite a sort of an intellectual thing to try and do. But the idea actually was trying to say this is an improvement for broadcast.
Well, it was becoming to a point where you couldn't actually sell the old classic series anymore, and that was the problem. That's why Underwater Menace took so long to come out, because they looked at the sales of DVDs now and Blu-rays, and they thought that's exhausted. There's no way you can actually have any more interest in the classic Doctor. You have minded right. That's what Stephen was addressing. He was trying to say, can we repackage this and put this on BBC4 at 10 o'clock at night? Can we actually get more people interested in classic Who than there was?
Yeah.
There was a finite number of people interested in Doctor Who pre-2005. How do we make that number bigger so we can encourage, what we had before, DVDs with extras and things like that? And I think they might have just decided to go with it anyway, hence the Power of the Daleks animation. I don't know where that came from. But they had to be really persuaded to get to put the Underwater Menace out.
Yes, it was the oddest thing. I mean, they were almost. I remember because I'm on the DVD extras for that, and that was recorded maybe. Yeah, I'm in the interview, and I was amazed that I'd forgotten. And then you watch to get the DVD, and you watch it, and you think, oh my God, there I am, saying things that I don't recall ever having an opinion about. Because they were only given to me at the time. And yeah, it's an odd thing, but I mean that one I just thought would never see the light of day. And yet now there seems to be this appetite again for saying, can we maybe, I think if Power does well, obviously it's released episode 1 today, the hope I think would be that there might be more, and it'd be lovely actually one day to feel, that we can get that sort of archive plugged to it.
I say in many ways, the fact we are here with present Doctor Who today, just segueing clumsily into.
Yes, I'm not so much of our.
No, it's interesting, because the fact that the first Doctor Who thing I ever did was Death Comes to Time, which was the BBC online thing. And it came from nowhere. This lunatic called Dan Freeman persuaded, I think got drunk and persuaded Sophie and Sylvester to come into this project, and then persuaded the head of comedy radio to make a pilot, a half-an-hour pilot, Death Comes to Time, which got knocked back so quickly by Radio 4, who were into doing a women's. They were more interested in looking on Radio 4 as kind of like a feminine channel, so genre stuff was well out there. And then he went to BBC Online, and they were persuaded to put it out. But the fact he got 1 million hits, this pilot, this failed Radio 4 pilot with cartoon characters in it, got 1 million hits, encouraged them to put more on, and they encouraged them to approach the finish. And as you were saying this morning, then it encouraged Scream of the Schalke, and then we got Lorraine Higginson angry, and then we got Doctor Who. It was like this slow osmosis that the idea that Doctor Who was popular and actually could be sold. And every so often someone comes on and goes, it's not popular anymore. That's what happened in a large...
I wanted to ask you about that, because I first met you, because I've known you for 15, 16 years or so, and I first met you by a swimming pool.
Oh yes!
In Los Angeles,
Yeah.
at the Gallifrey Convention.
Yeah.
And you were there, and all I knew of you at that time was you were the script editor for Death Comes to Time, working with this elusive writer called Colin Meek. And I remember actually being rather nervous of you, because as a result, you know, I was doing some Big Finish stuff. I was starting out with that, and yet you were doing this sort of rival. It's how Big Finish saw it at the time. This sort of rival attempt at doing Doctor Who, but you were proper BBC people. And I was, you know, I was very, very scared of you as a result. And yeah, explain to me who Colin Meek was.
I literally got involved with Doctor Who by accident. I've been a professional writer for a couple of years. I had no interest in being a Doctor Who writer. I always remember what Robert Holmes said. It was one of his best quotes. He says, you should just say, I want to write. Not when I want to write this, I want to write that. I want to just write. And I've always been that. I've always done lots of different things. And the idea of trying to write for a show that had been dead for about 10 years, well, 5 years at the time, no interest in. But I saw this Doctor Who logo on an office door next in the BBC comedy department, which had Doctor Who there at the time. And there was this man in there, Dan Friedman, who said he was making Doctor Who for the new generation. He had a little guinea pig hutch in his little hamster cage in his office with Dayfall Daleks inside, with a little sign saying, do not feed the Daleks. I said, okay, can I be your scientific advisor? And he said, well, okay. I was going to ask Mike Tucker, but you're in the next office, so you can advise me on all things Doctor Who. And as
he wasn't a fan, was he, particularly?
No, he just knew Sylvester and Sophie.
Yeah.
He was just kind of this guy, and I gradually became the script editor because he was getting these scripts from Colin Meek, from Australia, and I was just going, this is just nonsense, this is just rambling. There's something in this, but it's just all over the bloody place, man. It's just. And he goes, okay, well, you're my script editor, you tell me what's wrong with these scripts, and I'll tell Colin.
Because there is, in some ways, you know, as a sort of idea of relaunching the show, it does seem quite peculiar that it begins by actually killing the Doctor off completely. Yeah, but that's right. Well, obviously, I know that this is something which is quite new.
You know, Dan...
It's an odd approach, isn't it?
I don't know what Dan was... I think he wanted to do a big... He wanted to finish Doctor Who off, and as it went on, it was like, I want to bring it back, so I'm going to resurrect him after a while, and then, oh no, Stephen Fry can be Doctor Who. It's like a title, it's like Vampire Slayer. Doctor Who is just a title, and I was just nodding. Inside, I was cold as ice, but I was just nodding because I knew none of these things would actually come to fruition. I just wanted to be on a Doctor Who project because it seemed quite fun at the time. And just to see where it went, I had a thought in my head that it was never, ever going to go anywhere. But just in case it did, I would like to be there on the bottom rung.
Because how big was your Doctor Who fan G before this? I mean, you'd been watching it when you were a kid.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but I'm of that kind of, I don't know what you call a baby boomer. I grew up, I caught the tail end of Pertwee. I was one of those huge amount of fans who watched it during Tom Baker. I was 7 or 8. I was absolutely terrified of it. Behind the Saber, all that stuff. And I think I was very lucky, and people of my age and your age were very lucky too, because it kind of grew up a little with us. First of all, it was scary, which was good when I was 6 or 7. And when I became 10 or 11, it got canine, and I was really into gadgets and robots because Star Wars was bad. So I loved canine so much.
Yeah.
And then when I got to 12 and 13, then it started getting a bit technical with Chris Bisley coming over with his E-Space and all that. And it got less silly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was good. And then it got a bit nostalgic, and I could feel superior as a fan by saying to my nan, look, that's Cyberman. It's come back. Look, the Master's come back. So I think from 73, 74 through to 80, the mid-80s,
Yeah.
it pretty much stayed with me as I grew up. And then I think there was that kind of divorce when it got a bit silly and I was going to university.
It's odd, isn't it? It's the way also that I know a lot of kids growing up with Harry Potter who have actually almost artificially found that because Harry Potter ages over the course of those books, and also the tone of the books becomes more adult, actually that they feel that was their own process of growing up. Even though, of course, it can't be true for all of them. But nevertheless, actually, you know, that they still feel that whatever age they were, because they were watching something evolve. And I always actually felt with Doctor Who there's something very similar about that. When people ask me about why it was, I mean my wife, who doesn't understand at all why I love Doctor Who still, it's because it kind of was always changing, and it therefore, even artificially, it seemed to keep pace with us as well. I think almost whatever age we were, we would actually in some ways see that you were changing, it was changing.
I think it was something for you, whatever age you were, that provided you were from about 9 to 16, there was something in there. If the TV series wasn't completely your thing, you still had the target novelizations, which was so important growing up. Basically, if you were a child of my age, your age, when we were growing up, if you weren't into the blasty space cowboy type stuff, and you were interested in a different kind of science fiction, and you were interested in reading, then Doctor Who was your thing. And if you were interested in television, Doctor Who was your thing, because through Doctor Who you learned, oh, that director did Day of the Triffids, that producer worked on this one, that actor was in I, Claudius. So you gradually not only dug into the history of Doctor Who, finding out there were these other doctors. The first time I knew there was other Doctor Who other than Tom Baker, John Pertwee, was when I watched the Peter Cushing film at Peterborough Cinema. I'm thinking, it's just another program there. It's just, and it's just history. And then you go into the history of Doctor Who, and you go into the history of television, and it is no surprise that people like Stephen Moffat and Russell T Davies are just interested in the process of writing and the process of television. And you meet so many people like that, like Nick Pegg, Nick Briggs, technically minded people interested in story, interested in the process of putting together drama and acting and everything. It just encourages an eclectic mind. So
is it too simplistic to say that Doctor Who was one of the spurs for your wanting to be a writer?
Oh, absolutely. I wrote, when I was in primary school, I wrote this story, 10 pages long, I think I was about 6 or 7, called Nicholas's Gang of the Exterminators, about a group of kids who were in this space box who came up against these monsters called exterminators. So, you know, very derivative. I know Terry Nation would have sued my arse on that. No. And I know.
We can still tell the Hancock estate now.
Yeah, you can. I mean, my 6-year-old would be quaking in his boots. But you can see that point. Is I was so into it, I was already starting to peel up and find my own story. And finding your own identity within stuff that you were really into. I love these elements, and I want to do something with them. I want to make my stories about them.
Because I find it always very curious. I mean, you and me and Stephen and Mark, I mean, our backgrounds are all comedy writing. And it's odd, actually, I feel that so many of us who were fueled by Doctor Who and diverted it into other writing to begin with, we do actually go for that comedy thing. I mean, when did you? But I first heard of you, actually. I remember this now. That it was my grandmother was a Time Lord, which was Edinburgh Festival, wasn't it? It was. And it was the first time that was a comedy piece you wrote.
Yeah, I put it in the Canal Cafe in Little Venice.
Okay,
And I just was trying to find any way to write anything. It's like the Robert Holmes things I want to write. I thought about writing comic scripts for 2000 AD. I thought about writing children's books. I wasn't getting anywhere. And one thing I was trying to do was put my work on stage. So I wrote a play, and Anorak of Fire was very popular a couple of years before. So I wanted to write a play about being a Doctor Who fan. So it was about this kid growing up and about him thinking his grandmother was a Time Lord because she was really old and she had rooms in her house that you didn't go into. So it's obviously it was obviously TARDIS, where there were corridors just reaching up into everywhere. And, you know, she was just weird, and she didn't have a lot of hair. And it was just kind of like looking at the weirdness of the world and putting it, slotting it into the Doctor Who universe. And, you know, I put it on for a couple of weeks, and I learned a lot from writing comedy, from doing it. I think I knew I was a comedy writer at the time. I think I knew I could do it. I could just, it's good to get that instant, I think it's writing, it's good to get that instant response when you're a comedy writer. You know you're a writer through several things, and sometimes when you get a laugh, you go, I know I'm a comedy writer. Even though I can write lots of other things, I know I can be a comedy writer. I suspect I can be a drama writer. I think I might be able to write children's, but I know I'm a comedy writer.
It's odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a sort of, it's an instinct that you have.
And if you're
it's about knowing actually how the right rhythm
Yes.
works. It's like a musical instinct. And,
exactly. And if you know you want to be a type of writer, and you instantly know that you were a comedy writer from the response of the audience, from the rhythm, from putting on a play, a 2-hour play, and having people come to see it and laugh a lot, and then putting on another play, the second one after that, knowing that people can laugh a lot, going, I know I can do this aspect of writing. So I went into doing Weekending, which was a Radio Across the show. I said, I know I can write sketches because I know I can write comedy. All that other stuff, all that other drama stuff on television, all that play stuff on the theatre, I could possibly do that. I don't know how I can do it at the moment, but I know I can do this. I know I can write a structure, a joke structure, which will make people laugh. So if you're a writer like me who wants to go somewhere where the money is, or wants to become a professional writer, that was the biggest thing in my head that was calling.
so how did your involvement with Dead Ringers, because that's, you know, that seems to be your longest consistent thing that you've been doing all these years. I mean,
Weekending, I got over to Weekending, which is basically an open door show where anybody in an anorak with a plastic bag can come in and try and write sketches for the show. They have 2 meetings, one of commissioned writers, one of non-commissioned writers. If you're good as a non-commissioned writer, you might get invited onto the commissioned writers team when a commissioned writer sort of moved on. So after about a year of that, I got commissioned. And then I got a larger commission and a larger commission. So I was on about 10 minutes. Weekending was going very nicely for me. And I also knew someone else called Tom Jameson who was doing very nicely on Weekending. And then it got cancelled. James Ball cancelled it because it'd been going for 25 years. It's a familiar story. It was going for 25 years. People thought it was a bit old-fashioned. There were too many producers. It didn't really have an identity. It was moving around the schedules. And they cancelled it. And a year or so later, Dead Ringers came along, which is the brainchild of your day. Wanted to do a more focused, spitting image style thing on the radio. We thought, my friend Tom Jameson, we started writing together by that time. We'd been commissioned together on another sketch show. I thought, well, why don't we try Dead Ringers? I mean, he doesn't like us that much, but let's try it. I mean, we had the stink of Weekending about at that time. Being a writer or an actor or a director or producer on Dead Ringers had the stink about it of being So our names were mud. So we went into Dead Ringers and we found we could write it well. And after a while we were writing most of it, and after a while we were writing practically all of it. We just got it. And we stayed on it. Some writers moved on because they were really good. Some writers didn't get it, so they wandered away. We stuck to it because we got it, and we could write a lot of it, and we could write it well. And after a couple of series, we were de facto alone writers.
Because I feel a bit guilty about it, because not for those although I might bring that up. That is bad. That is actually terrible.
No, now you can
bring it up. No, you can do it. You can do it.
No, I will say that.
It's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago. But I mean, and I will bring on to that, because obviously that's after I got to know you quite well.
Yeah.
But I first began listening to Dead Ringers for the worst reason, which is that I began to hear that people were saying, if you listen to this, you'll get the odd Doctor Who reference.
Yes.
And of course, it was that time when we were so starved for Doctor Who, anyone at the BBC. You know, you would watch. I mean, I remember watching certain children's cartoons because they were borrowing sound effects from the sound effects record, and I'd say, I mean, Danger Mouse would use stuff, so I would record Danger Mouse because I wanted a Doctor Who guy, which is ridiculous. And so when I heard Dead Ringers was doing things where you get John Coleshaw regularly phoning people up as Tom Baker.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course, mean, how, and at a time when, as I was saying earlier, you know, and on my panel, Doctor Who was really genuinely like pissing in a bucket.
Yeah.
You know, it was a really rude thing to mention at the BBC.
It was a comedy prop. We used it as a comedy prop.
But it became more and more. I mean, obviously, it became so much more prevalent. I mean, was there anyone actually ever raise an eyebrow about the fact Doctor Who was becoming a big thing on Dead Ringers? I mean, John Coltrane obviously was a fan as well.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Dead Ringers pilot in 1999, and I saw this guy ringing up as Tom Baker, and I go, this guy is a huge fan. He's obviously making references to Scarasons and I Have Harmonies and Hand of Omega. Yeah, he's obviously that, and we got to know each other very well, very quickly. And I encouraged him to do more.
Yeah.
And I actually got him Sylvester's number to phone Sylvester. The phone the first one. That made a huge impact. And then we did Colin and Peter and Nicholas Courtney and yeah, it was great.
It was terribly funny, the one with Sylvester.
It works well because Sylvester sort of knew.
He was asking when he was drunk. Are you right, Tom? Yeah.
Sylvester was playing it up because I said to the doctors, I don't know if the shares to say this, but I did say, these are professionals. I don't think they'd appreciate it, but I will tell them that it might happen sometime in the next 6 months that you might get rung up by John Coltrane. So they had a little bit of an inkling that something was going to happen, including Sylvester. So I think he knew immediately it was John Coltrane, but he was playing it up a bit. Like Tom too. I think Tom knew he was going to get a call from Ringers. By that time, most of the doctors did like that.
Yeah.
So I think people were more primed. I think Nicholas Courtney was a bit bewildered.
wasn't he, by those sort of things?
But
I mean, yeah.
I think as Doctor Who became more and more of a thing, it kind of started jarring with Ringers because we went into the television, and then Eccleston came along. And
well, I mean, before we get on to that, I mean, I will bring up why I caused a problem with John Coltrane later. But I mean, the first bit of televised Doctor. I mean, I mentioned this in Maryland. Remember? I am. I'm going to ask about this. The thing which everyone forgets is that there was a time in, it was the year 2000, 2001, around that time. The Radio Times had, it was amazing. They actually had listed amongst their credits at a certain time of the evening, Doctor Who, without any sort of preamble or warning. There was a 5-minute Doctor Who programme, which was called The Secret of Germany versus England.
Yes, well, that's the Secret of England v Germany.
Oh, okay, I got that wrong.
Yeah, well,
but
you've got to get your Doctor Who facts.
So actually, the first actual televised Doctor Who this century was
John Coltrane talking to John Watson in the Sky, talking about England v football, England v Germany football. There was this lunatic producer who said, I've got this theory about England v Germany matches, that every time they play, the country with the best cars wins. Can we put that into some kind of Doctor Who framework with using John Coltrane? The Sky, with John Motson in the Sky, the Motty, we called him, explaining this, and it was balls.
You see, I count it as canon.
Yeah, I know. What do you do?
It's terrible. Toby Haydock and I are doing our big watches, and we're doing that over the course of a series of books, which eventually will get released. We do cover Germany versus Germany.
I showed it to Nicola just the other week. He said, "This is terrible."
It isn't your finest
moment.
No,
my ranked below the weakest linked children in need special is the worst thing I've ever done.
I can't help just how did that one work?
That was hideous. I think I learned a lot of lessons from that because it was just compromise after compromise, and you just go down a route. This is what you learn as a writer. If you take on a project and the compromise, you just walk away from it. We did because it was the charity.
Yeah.
We couldn't use the dialects. We couldn't do anything rude, have rude questions. It was just a horrible mess. And it was on very early in the evening, and really just sat there. It just was a mess, and John had gone a bit mad by that point.
I'll come on. Yeah.
John was such a Doctor Who fan that when the new series was starting, he had an idea that he could create his own Doctor Who by using Tom Baker impression. So he invented his own costume with his Tom Baker impression. I think.
God, that's right. Yeah.
I know. So he came on with his kind of like sort of big welly boots thing, and kind of like a but he was sort of half dressed. He had the hat, he had the hair on and the hat, but he was sort of half dressed in something else, and that was why he just kind of did.
Well, John became a big star.
He did.
When he was doing the TV.
He's a big star, and big stars have these notions that don't necessarily work. And this was when
I should perhaps explain. You know, the reason why you thought I was going to say earlier, and I wasn't going to, but I will now. Nev very kindly would invite me sometimes to go to a Dead Ringers taping at the BBC, you know, where they would do it in front of an audience, and sketches which didn't work would not end up within the programme. It was quite an exciting time, actually.
Yeah,
and I wasn't watching amongst the audience as I sometimes go, but I was up in the actual edit suite with all the drinks and the champagne and, well, orange juice, to be honest. And
I talked to you before because I was, as in any process of a long-running show on radio and television, there are frictions between cast and writers.
Yes.
Things happen.
Yeah.
Things happen.
And John at that point was being a little bit hard work.
He was. He was being a little bit John Pertwee, as Terence Sticks would say, because we just meet in the bar and goes, oh, how's John today? He's being difficult, he's improvising. Oh, I remember John Pertwee, he was just the same. And then we'd have a writer's sympathy between Terence and me. At the time John was improvising a lot, particularly doing the live stuff, particularly doing the George Bush stuff, when he was just putting random words in the sketches. It's a little thing, it's not like the terrible things you hear about certain performers. But it was upsetting the rhythm of the sketch, and he was fluffing because he was trying to improvise a scripted sketch over a scripted sketch. So it was more frustrating because he was stopping and starting because he was trying to be extra funny.
So part of the trouble was that I was up there in the recording suite, and I was with Nev, and I could see John was doing this, and I stupidly just began saying to you, well, I don't know what he's even doing now. It's ridiculous. I mean, you can see his ego's out of control. Not knowing that right behind me was John Shaw's agent.
No, he's fine. Rob, he's fine. It's all part of the thing. He's a performer.
I was saying, come on, then. He's actually ruining all your lines here. It's ridiculous.
No, it's okay. Of course, the week before I was trying to be physically stopped from running down to the floor to stop him.
I mean, this was a dangerous thing because obviously the idea that you would have appeared to be bitching about how bad John was to your mate, the agent would go back and tell John, and this would really kick off quite badly.
Well,
and of course, therefore,
who was that terrible man in the green room who was being? I said, I don't know. He's probably a friend of Phil Cornwall's. I don't know.
But actually, but you maintain, because you're a nice person, that rather than hear you wreck the whole of Dead Ringers, that actually I helped you in some way. I don't know. You do maintain that I didn't really let you down.
Oh no, of course not. No.
Good. Say that again.
It's good to filter back to be. It eventually filters back to actors that they're actually going off in the wrong direction because they don't get a lot of feedback. All writers get is feedback all the time. They get told their stuff is wrong all the time. And actors are really at their best. I mean, John is absolutely sweet.
Yes, he's a lovely guy.
And he takes direction like a charm. But there comes a point when you go through the television and the radio sausage machine, when you actually don't know where you are, spiritually, physically. You need kind of like a place to...
I mean, it's part of the frustration of TV. I mean, the thing which... it's not... It's the thing which people don't realise, I think, is that directors working on TV now rarely feel they have the right to direct the actors with notes. So, I mean, a few years ago, I know this is... I mean, Nick Briggs was working on... I think it was Voyage to the Damned or something. And the director of that was Charles Palmer, who was Jeffrey Palmer's son. So it wasn't Voyage to the Damned, that's why I've got that, because he was in Voyage to the Damned. But anyway, Nick was off to go and do some theatre work with some actors, and the director just said to him, so what's that like, actually speaking to actors? And Nick said, what do you mean, you're a director? He said, I'm not going to speak to the actors. No, because all the execs give notes to the lead cast, and the casting director is the one who's brought the other actors up. I mean, I take hand off. And the idea actually as a result is that people you can see what happens on shows, because people like David Tennant, who, is an old friend of mine who's lovely, and worked in the theatre, and that's how I got to know him, and he takes direction terribly, terribly well. Over the course of his time on the show, would never be given notes because no one would dare to, because he's the doctor, he's the charge of the show. And that early desire to get notes starts to fade. I mean, I get that as a writer. I mean, I now take offence if I'm working with certain publishers and I don't get notes from them for years because I just do what I want. And they start giving me notes, and I say, what do you mean? I don't take notes. But of course, it is part of the job. So there is that. I mean, but actually, kind of making this more about you again. Bringing it back. Do you find that, I mean, even now, because you're still doing dead ringers, you know, it was often it's back on. I mean, presumably people don't interfere too much with what you do.
Dead ringers now, personally for me, is fantastic. Because the old, shall we say the classic dead ringers? Is that classic dead ringers?
Yeah.
Like classic Doctor Who. It became a little bit, because Tom and I were writing so much of it, the pressure was so much on us, the actors were getting a little bit, their feet were getting itchy, they wanted to do their thing and their voice and this thing. So we were going to, it was kind of like we were feeling besieged and overworked and undermined sometimes. And when we came back, the producer seemed to change, seemed more open, more democratic. We got some younger writers he found some younger writers to help us who were really nice. Round the table, it's incredibly democratic. Actually, the interesting thing is, in the old days, there was 5 members of the cast. There was production assistant, director, various other production people, and a producer. And there would be me and Tom.
Yeah.
Now there is the 5 members of the cast, plus 6 writers, because he invites the core team there. So me and Tom, and there's 4 or 5 good young writers. So the actors are outnumbered. So the discussion is not whether I want to do this voice or not. The discussion is whether the sketch is any good. And the feedback, we actually rewrite each other's sketches on the table over the heads of the performers, which is great. It's so relaxing, and you feel free. And if there's a sketch that doesn't really work, it's fine because the other writers are saying it doesn't work. If you have an actor that's saying it doesn't work, you feel suspicious that they just don't want to do that voice, or they don't want their impression to be seen in that kind of way, or they don't think, you know, that, oh, you're not doing what they want to do. So you feel that if they don't like a sketch, there's always an agenda. If another writer who's getting paid like you just says, I don't think this is working, I think we need to cut this in half and put a different voice at the end, you're right. And that's why I love writing Dead Ringers now more than anything, because it's that kind of, it's more relaxed, it's great, and the producer allows it. It's great. There was a certain amount of paranoia building up.
Is that one of the reasons why you began writing books? Because I mean, I find now as a book writer as well that you are your own god, and that there is actually a certain degree of just ease about knowing that you're answerable to yourself as you're writing.
Well, you know as well as I do that it's so frustrating with television and radio that there are so many people on your shoulder, and it's so difficult to get projects off the ground. That so many TV writers eventually gravitate towards books. I mean, I have a different path. I've always loved books. I love murder mysteries. I love the Simon Brett books, the Charles Paris mysteries.
Yeah.
So I've always wanted to do a book. And I thought about writing what I know, and I knew about science fiction conventions. And I thought about what I'd like to write, and I thought about a vaguely humorous murder mystery style. So I did write the Murder and Stone books to reflect both those things.
Which are brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
I hope you've read them.
So I wrote 3 books, which I really enjoyed. The Murder in the Science Fiction Convention, the Murder during the DVD commentary, the Murder during the reboot of the old science fiction series. And I love them immensely, but as a writer, you have a very utilitarian approach to your work. I thought it's been a long time on this. They didn't sell particularly well because everyone told me after the fact that comedy thrillers don't sell that well. And I thought, okay, that's fine. I love writing Mervyn. Maybe I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
But to do more Mervyn, I'll probably have to make a better living as a book writer to complement all my stuff working on radio and TV.
Yeah.
So I'll write a serious one. And it took a couple of years, and I eventually just, there was a play that Nicola and I were discussing about a woman in pain who thinks her husband's about to kill her. And I eventually said, no, this isn't a play, this is a book. Because I was reading before I go to sleep, and I thought, this is internalising pain point of having chronic neuropathic pain is that it's all internal in your head. You can't write a play, you have to write a book, because that's what books do. They are the best thing for being inside someone's head. So I think I was in a book convention with you, promoting Mervyn Stone, and you promoting your books up in the Wirral or somewhere like that.
Probably,
Big Finish had sent us up there to promote our books.
Yeah.
And I sat down in my hotel room and started writing the first lines of serious thriller.
Yeah.
And it worked. Serious books sell.
It's doing really well, isn't it?
My agent was bowled over by it. It's currently on sale in Germany. There's a German translation. It's coming out in France. My agent is now over there now, getting a US publisher. It's coming out in mass market just after Christmas, and they're really going to push it in the supermarkets. So it's great.
It's the way to also, I mean, it's interesting as you see yourself freeing yourself from the need to make people laugh, which is quite interesting anyway. But also the way in which, of course, you also now, your NJ Fountain, it's like a sort of rebranding of even of who you are, while still writing good thrillers at the same time. So, I mean, so you're still doing stuff, and you're still doing Big Finish, which I haven't even mentioned. I'm sorry yet, but you're still writing Big Finish audios and Doctor Who as well.
I mean, I think
so. It's like you've got these different hats that you're
swapping. As I say, it's back to the Robert Holmes thing. I want to write.
Yeah.
I just finished a song audio for Big Finish, which I probably shouldn't say. But it was just nice to go back into the scripting, to the economy, to the pace.
Yeah.
Just as a rest from doing sketches, and it's just nice to write the book as a rest from doing script. It's good to give your brain, your writing brain, all these different things to do. And I say this a lot. It's writing sketches and writing scripts is like doing a picture in chalk. You can do it very quickly, but the effect is not completely in your control. Chalk. But if you're writing a book, it's like painting a picture in oils. It takes longer, but you can be responsible for every tiny aspect. You can present the scene any way you like. You are not beholden to performers. You're not beholden to camera shots from other people. I love being in a team. I love being, as I said with Dev Innes, I love being around people who have different points of view, but sometimes it's just nice to take yourself away and write exactly what you want to write and then present it as, this is my story.
There is I remember I was at the recording of Overgo, your first big thing. I was there. I was in the green. I was eating all the donuts, as I do.
Well, we're all kind of drinking.
Yeah, and there was the actress. It's probably okay to say it now.
Yeah, it's okay to say.
There was an actress who
Carolyn Monroe
couldn't act. Really.
Who was lovely. She
was a sweetheart. She was an old Bond girl, wasn't
but
she?
Gary had got this thing going that he'd like to cast people from various aspects of science fiction
And genre stuff.
and she was nearly the Doctor companion on a movie somewhere.
Yeah.
And she
It would have been disastrous if she had been.
But she did say, that would have been that thing like you said about Billy Piper this morning. That was
Yeah. I mean, who genuinely isn't like that.
But the name comes into your head and you go, can she act?
But I remember seeing, and you're, how have you come across now, of course? You're actually a very, very polite, reasonable person. Because you have to be. But I could see you during that first Big Finish recording, in some way sort of just seeing this, which you'd worked terribly hard on. It was a very long script as well. It was a very, very complex idea with a very, very clever twist in it, and which I won't obviously say, because that would be pointless. But it was seeing the fact, and I used to find this as well, that the problem with doing recorded drama is that all that work seems to be sort of rushed through in maybe 2 days. If you're lucky, you get as long as that. And that's the balance with doing books, I suppose.
I think it is refreshing. But not to say I've been very lucky because I've worked with performers I've known and respected for a long time.
Yeah.
And I've been luckier than almost any other writer I know that I have worked with John and Jan Raymond and people like that who I know their rhythms, I know their structures, I know their voices, and I can write a sketch standing on their head and I know they're going to do justice to it. When you want to be finished, it's more of an unknown quantity. And but you tend not to get too worried unless it's going to completely destroy the whole product.
Yeah.
I don't mind at all. Nicola kept saying to me, I really love Kingmaker. And, it's very...
Yeah, Kingmaker's extraordinary as well.
And that's really how we sort of got together, because she sought me out after Kingmaker, because well, this funny writer, and you wanted to write a sitcom.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, can you make straight? He goes, yeah, you know that line on quite early on, that was meant to be a joke. You played it straight. You know, that one about Queens, that's actually a joke. Oh, was it? Doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter that you didn't see that it was a joke, you didn't put the emphasis on the right word. It doesn't matter because the whole project worked.
Yeah.
And you just got to let some things go, and you learn more and more to let things go.
Yeah.
The more you write. That's probably why the book is so important, because that's the thing where you don't have to let anything go. But that's not true, because that's not completely true, because everything is compromised. Everything is compromised. NJ Fountain is NJ Fountain because I sold this book on the basis of the female protagonist in the middle of it. And the head of the publishing company said, this woman is written so well, I don't want to spoil it for people just grabbing off the shelves to know that a man wrote it.
Was it a gender thing?
No, it's a gender thing. It's like S.J. Watson in Before I Go to Sleep.
Yeah.
He's a bloke,
yeah.
But it's a woman in the middle of it.
Or J.K. Rowling. Yeah. Because he's a bloke. It's true. It is true.
That was what they put to me.
Jack Rowling.
That was what they put to me. They said, can we do NJ Fountain, because if someone's running past in an airport lounge and they see this woman on the cover and they've heard it's a good book about a woman in pain who's terrorised, I'd like it to be NJ, so they can think it's like Natalie Fountain or something like that. And that's marketing. And even the book, I don't know if this happened to you, but I had a meeting with my agent and my publisher in a room in London, and they we love this book. It's a fantastic book. But this is a statement they're not actually bought it yet. Yeah. Here are some notes, what we think. And so, well, we're not too worried about, we don't like the first person stuff with other characters, just like the first person stuff with the main character, the woman. And because of my experience in writing sketches and compromising all the time, I go, yeah, that's fine, I'll just write the other characters in the third person, that's fine. Or we don't really like the aspect of this villain's character. Okay, that's fine. Can he not have a family? I said, no, you should have a family. I'm drawing that red line. And I came out of it, and my publisher, my agent was saying, that was really good. I think you did really well. Because some people just fold up like a cheap suit and say yes to everything, and some people just storm out and go, no, you're not having my book. Yeah. This is my book, this is my baby. Just knowing when to compromise and when not to compromise, the integrity of the story and the integrity of what you're doing, you should know what the heart of it is. So you can say, yeah, you want to do that, that's not going to change the integrity of the story, that's fine, I'll change that for you.
Well, it's also the knowledge as you're a writer, which you can't really say too often even to yourself, because it makes you feel too nervous. You always know that every version you're doing is there's a better version out there if you only can find it. So everything that you do is a massive compromise. And the fact that when you go out to write a passage of a story and you write it down and you think half an hour later after a Diet Coke that I could have written that better or worse, and it always was a bit spontaneous.
I don't know how you feel, but I always think rewrites are opportunities. I'm very close to the publishing of the Murder Studies. They just took me out to a park, just like your agent. He took me out into the middle of an open space and said, Kirsten and sequels. This whole thing about the BBC making this, and BBC Cornwall, and taking the piss, because originally it's a reboot of this old science fiction show, and I thought, oh, BBC Wales made BBC Cornwall can make this one. So I had it set down in Cornwall, and BBC Cornwall were responsible for this disastrous science fiction revival. And I said, we do 95% of our business with the BBC giving us permission. We don't think we can publish this in this form. And even as he was speaking, I was thinking, get around this, this is fine, this is fine. I'll make it an independent American company that takes hold of old franchises and just tears them apart. And, oh yeah, that's good, because the American aspect would work really well in the confusion between the cultures. That would be good. And by the time he finished his sentence, or his paragraph, saying, I'm really sorry about this, that's fine, no worries about that, I can rewrite it. Yeah. And he was kind of like stunned.
Well, people don't normally respond that way.
No, but
also, it's the nature, I think, of the way that you write sketches. I mean, there's a certain sense in which you have to be flying with it as you go, because you have to. Yeah. The fact that you are, here we are at the moment, the world is on with certain numbers of knife edges.
Yes.
And you know, you are. I mean, I'm currently watching South Park, which which tries its episodes days before broadcast, hinging upon whether Trump wins or not.
It's absolutely fantastic.
So, you know, I mean, you will write completely different dead rings, dependent upon what happens over the course of the next few years.
We had two of these in the last 2 years. We had the general election, which everyone assumed was going to be a coalition, another coalition government, Labour was the largest party. I went to bed at 2 o'clock with a prediction that the Conservatives had a majority. And being an older writer, Tom and I have written very little about the show that we were going to be recording the following day. And the younger writers have written reams of stuff about coalition governments. So it all went in the bin.
It's a safety net.
We'd written 3 sketches about what we knew was going to happen. I think we wrote a sketch with the Queen, which we could rewrite easily about the result. We wrote a sketch about, we knew George Galloway was going to lose his seat, so we wrote one for that. And we knew that Boris Johnson was going to become an MP because he was in Kensington or something, really safe seat. So we wrote about that. There was the only 3 things we knew about, so we wrote 3 sketches for a show that was going to be recorded the following day. And everyone came in with their hair on fire. And the second thing which happened was Brexit.
Yeah.
Brexit, that again, 2 o'clock in the morning, the decision was completely other way. Again, I came in at 4 o'clock in the morning. People were on their phones at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, on the train station, just talking like sell, buy, and all this kind of stuff. And I was going, what's funny about this? What is funny about this disaster? You know, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I've had to walk 2 miles because my local train station doesn't have trains that run that early in the morning. I've walked 2 or 3 miles, and now sitting on a train station. And I knew that's when it's good to have a writing partner, because you go in and he's already there. His fingers are blurring on the keyboard, trying to think what's funny about something you never thought was going to happen, and then write it, and then have it done in 3 hours' time. And both of those times, the show's been fantastic, and you can hear the visceral rawness of the show and the rawness of the audience. I've got 5 minutes, so give you questions.
Yes, of course.
Sorry.
I was actually about to go on to that. I was letting you on. Yes, sorry, I'm just chatting away.
Great question. Yeah, go on.
I was just saying, I read the tragedy and laughed myself silly. Many know him, know her.
Yeah.
Oh, that's me. That's so me. I won't tell you who I thought it was, but when I got to the end of the book and found out what me did, well, maybe it's not me. Maybe it is. But I know you said you were thinking of, when you were writing, do you have people in mind of who was that person?
Oh, completely. Of course I do. I mean, Graham Goldingay, I did have someone in mind. He was originally called Ivan Divine before they maybe changed the name. Yeah, there was a big fat super fan who had monsters.
Sorry,
This monster super fan that held everyone in the palm of his meaty hand. Yeah, there's lots of, but most of them are composites. You know, there's a little bit of Jacqueline Pearce, there's a little bit of Katie Manning. It's not just them. I mean, I think that would be really rude, but there are aspects of them that you find amusing, and then you kind of shake it into something a bit more sinister, because it's a murder mystery. So, obviously, no one's murdering anyone in the conventions I go to, so you have to exaggerate and make people weird. And David also made a point about, can you be a bit kinder on the fans in the tragedy? And I said, yeah, I'll be a bit kinder, but the thing that irritates fans most is other fans. So the fact that that I'm really ripping into fans doesn't actually offend the fans, because they all know someone who's lower down on the evolutionary ladder than them, who really pisses them off. So this is for them, because they think they're not in the book. They are. But no, but you know what I mean. It's a proximity thing, and it kind of works fine. I mean, I've put a couple of lines and say some fans are nice, and it's a very positive thing. I mean, the point is, Mervyn doesn't like conventions, going to conventions. That's the character. That's the script editor of Pictures from the Void. I love going to conventions, so I'm not writing me, but sometimes that you can say, well, it's a writer who's a character in a book. It must be you. No, it's not. It's not. It's called imagination. Anyone else? Any more questions?
How did the character
Well, we were just pitching loads of ideas to Radio 4 when we were the Golden Boys doing their thing the first time round. We did it quite cynically because we made the main character a woman and we made it historical, which was educational. I got the idea. I went down to some place and I was really annoyed and bored, and we went to this interactive museum about smuggling. It was Hastings or something like that. And I thought, yeah, I like this. I like this idea that smugglers were rock stars in their day. It just going through this interactive museum and enjoying it more and more as I was going through it. Hearing about smugglers. So we pitched it to Radio 4 and we got 2 series. So that was literally it. It was actually cynically thinking what Radio 4 might get and might buy. Educational, the feminist angle. And I thought, yeah, it worked very well. I thought it was great.
It's a fun comedy, right?
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Just will we ever see anything of Doctor Who does historical mysteries?
Well, I could write a whole book as Terence wrote it, didn't he?
Yeah.
I could write a whole children's
Doctor Who
book.
discovers the Conquerors.
The Conquerors.
Yeah, early man.
Early prehistoric creatures.
Wonderful.
Yes, the Raptors. The same didn't have the Raptors when the Raptors. The Wamposaurus. No, I don't. That was just a ruse to get you into the story. And someone will. Someone's always out there willing to write the Vixen Void program guide and willing to write Doctor Who discovers historical mysteries. There'll be someone out there doing it. I don't need to. I'm doing other things. Yes.
Just on the Dead Ringers one, were you responsible for Brian Perkins and his whip?
No, it's John Holmes. John Holmes had a character very similar to that in his earlier stuff. He was kind of like, he is a naturally aggressive writer, which is probably why they sacked him from the Now Show for being too white. I don't know. It was Brian Perkins was him, but we did write Brian Perkins quite a lot when John moved on to other things. That was John Holmes.
He was a good character. Yeah, it's great character.
Yeah, he was good. He was a good. He was a good kind of like a calling card for the show because he was fun and aggressive and he said outrageous things. He gave the show some balls, I think, which sets it apart from some other satirical sketch shows, which is basically you wanted to see the Prime Minister always until you made Holly. It's nice to have someone in the middle there, just like outrageous. Yeah, it worked very well. No, it was a good creation.
So I think on that note,
Yes.
a round of applause for Nev Fountain.